Prince Harry is making the news, probably not for the way he wants to, after his receding hairline was very clearly pointed out when you compare two pictures. One is his profile from Better Up, and the other one is a recent picture of him in Japan. I don't know about you, but I see a clear difference between the two. Now, this is not to disparage Harry in any way. We all go through the process of aging, and it manifests itself in different ways for every single one of us. However, I think there's a huge thing to discuss here when Harry and Meghan are claiming they want to be authentic, they want to be their real selves, and yet they Photoshop something as silly and something as obvious as Harry's hair and even Archie's hair. And why are they doing that compared to the royals, who I feel like for the most part are pretty authentic? There's not a ton of Photoshop involved. There's not a bunch of retouching, and they're very much going through the process of aging publicly. We've seen it with Queen Letizia letting some of her hair go gray. We've seen Crown Princess Meghan Markle letting her son post a picture of her son's makeup with the sun setting in the background. It's a beautiful picture. But why can't Harry and Meghan do that? Why can't they accept their authentic selves? And how is this a broader discussion about the difference between royalty and celebrity? Because there's a huge difference. So we're going to go into this today, but if you guys haven't been to Royal News Network, my name is Brittany. I provide you guys compelling royal commentary and some of the news as well. So if you guys want to subscribe, that would be great. I also have a weekly newsletter, a fashion channel, and I also have a membership. So if you're interested in supporting this channel more, getting some more great information and pictures and posts and everything, I would love to have you guys back. I will be going to Europe next month, so I have a ton of coverage, and I've sent in requests for press credentials to at least one event. I'm hoping to do two too. And so it'll be just a great and fabulous time, and I can't wait to take you guys on that trip and give you guys some great first-hand royal coverage. That's what we look here to do, because you don't get too much of it in English, especially with some of the Scandinavian royals. Speaking of our Scandinavian brethren, we have Crown Princess Victoria, who was at two events regarding the Stockholm Water Awards. And so she was there one day by herself giving away one of the awards. One of them went to an American, and then she came on the second day with her father. We also have Crown Princess Mary. She was recently at a grief counseling center that she opened, and she's a patron of this organization, the National Grief Center for her country. And she knows grief personally. Her mother died when she was 25, and so it was after heart surgery. So she knows that kind of sudden loss, I think, that you can have, and that was before she met her husband. I think it's lovely to see her out and about again. We have more royals. Obviously, all the royals in the UK are gathering at Balmoral to remember the Queen's death, take some vacation time as well. But I think it'll, in very many ways, be a process of mourning. We've heard that Princess Beatrice is there, Eugenie is there, the Waleses are going, and Charles had some of his official welcome. So go ahead and take a watch of this little bit here.
I hope you're enjoying Scotland. What are you doing there? Marvellous.
All right, guys, I think that was so fantastic. And I also am wearing today my Queen Elizabeth Platinum Jubilee shirt. So I busted this out. They still had some of these for sale in London when I went in May. And it's kind of funny because I ordered this t-shirt in large, or not ordered, but I purchased a t-shirt in large, and it was huge, like massive. And so I was like, oh, I'll get a small. And then I feel like this is too small. I guess I should have gotten a medium. Who knew? It was like one of those things. I've done that with a pair of shoes too. It's like one size was massive, and it's like, oh, I'll get a full size down, and then that one was too small. And like the other one looked like clown shoes on my feet. So I don't know. But anyway, let's talk about this Harry picture. And I have to say, I think I started a little bit of this because I got a little bit of inspiration from the Rogue Royal, but then I went through and I was like, okay, let's compare what he looks like in Better Up and what he looked like in Japan, because I noticed it too, that he's starting to look really bad with his hairline. And yes, you could always see it from the back. Like there were certain side angles. I was like, oh, Harry, somebody said friar tuck, and I hate to say it, but it is kind of what it looks like because he has the hair around here. And so you could just tell in the back it was really, really starting to go. But he had this little bit in front that he could kind of, I think, mask it, not only to the public, but to himself. But in Japan, it's been the first time we've seen him in a while without a hat or whatever. It's going. It's going, Harry. And he's getting to the point where he really needs to adjust his hairstyle. Now, that's not to, again, disparage him in any way. It's just a reality that when you have something like that that's happening and your hairline is receding, there's nothing worse than trying to desperately cling on to the little bit you have left. I admire Prince William so much for just accepting the way his hair was going and just doing it with a lot of grace. But Harry, in this instance, I don't think he can. And so you look at this picture of Harry in Japan, and then you look at this picture on Better Up and you go, okay, these were supposedly taken because the People magazine article was from like January this year. So between January and August, has he literally lost like all his hair on top of his head? Or in the beginning, which you can see in the August publication, that his hair was digitally improved. It was additionally fluffed. I look at the picture and all I can feel is fakery from it. And granted, he was on the cover, but they've done other covers since then where his hairline, I think, looks a bit more like it actually is. So why in the world would you, as Harry, go, okay, well, I liked this picture. Here, Better Up, use this picture and adjust the contrast just a smidge so I look a bit better. But it doesn't work, Harry. It so doesn't work. Now, granted, if he was in the process of getting hair plugs or something, why, sure. But he's starting to look really bad. It's becoming very, very evident. So why are you trying to gaslight us, basically, the public, into thinking that you have more hair than you actually do? Because we can see it. So we're not faked by what you're trying to do with Better Up. We see the obvious. I hate to say it, but really kind of dumb. Because it's one thing, again, to Photoshop, let's say, minimize the lines or something, or take off a freckle or two, something like that. There can be very minor things done that I think are perfectly fine. And everybody is allowed to have a bit of tweaks done to themselves. Like if Harry wanted to get hair plugs, sure, have at it. If Meghan has a little bit of Botox, I can't falter for that. I've had a little because I have this big crease in my forehead that I don't like, and I have to look at myself in pictures and video and everything, and I just don't want to see that. But it's like, that's all I really worry about. So everybody is allowed to do those little tweaks that they do, but I think it's totally different when you're telling us that he has a full head of hair when he's clearly getting very bald. Those are two different things, and it screams gaslighting, and essentially, I think, lying. You were essentially, Harry, lying to the public, telling them you have a full head of hair when you don't. And frankly, doing something like that is just kind of dumb. It's just dumb because you can't escape the obvious. You're going to be in Dusseldorf in September. We'll all see you then again and again and again, and you're getting like weird bald patches over here. And so you'll probably be worse in September. So why are you trying to fake us out now? Like even in the original picture they had of him, because I went in the Wayback Machine, his hair looked more natural than it did in that People magazine picture. Now, is this Harry just getting vain? Which I think it probably is, because Hollywood does make you very vain. But I think it's also the fact that Harry has fully adopted, to a certain extent, Meghan's Hollywood lifestyle, which screams about Photoshop. You must Photoshop everything. Everything we've seen about Meghan since she's entered into the royal family has been very, very curated, managed. It lacks an authenticity because she's constantly trying to tweak it to make it perfect. And she is somebody who is obsessed, I think, with image, but not the concreteness behind it. We saw this in her reality TV show where she said that all she cared about was Harry was what he put in his Instagram profile, because that will tell you about him. I'm like, honey, I don't know about you, but you can look through any stinking celebrity and their social media profile, especially on Instagram. The vast majority of them have probably face-tuned their face quite a bit. Social media definitely is not the arbiter of authenticity in a lot of ways. It's the arbiter of how you can carefully curate and manage and cultivate an image that you want, rather than dealing with the reality of what you have. And Harry, again, doesn't have the benefit of maybe saying being in a movie, being in a television show where maybe they will give him, that maybe will buff up what little he has. No, he's gonna go to Dusseldorf in a media event, and basically they're gonna see the real Harry, unless he really is gonna start putting something on his head to make his hair look thicker. Again, don't really recommend it, Harry. At this point, you just don't have a lot to work with. And this is where I think Harry and Meghan diverge from the royals in a lot of ways, is that royals tend to be pretty authentic in how you look. I've met Catherine in person. I've seen her in person. I didn't get a big sense that what I see in a picture in a magazine is all that different than what I see her in person. And I will say, I will call out the people who added additional Photoshop to Catherine later. I've seen some of those pictures. Don't do it, because it gives people an unrealistic expectation, and to a certain extent, it is false. I think she looks absolutely lovely in person. There's no reason to make her smile bigger, make her teeth wider, trying to do all these things, because it's just an element of fakery that just doesn't need to exist. I'm all about authenticity. If you meet me in person, I'm pretty much the same person you see on here, except I may talk a bit quieter. Although honestly, in high school too, somebody told me I talked a little bit too loud. They could hear me across the room. My voice tends to travel. Other than that, I think to a certain extent, I'm starting to damage my vocal cords because my throat hurts more because I talk so much. But anyways, Catherine seems to me to be pretty authentic. I didn't see a lot of difference between what I've heard about her and what I've seen her like in person. Just as a reminder, royals, I'm sure, dye their hair. Maybe they have a smidge of plastic surgery, a bit of Botox. They upkeep themselves because they have to. They're on public display. But yet at the same time, they're perfectly comfortable, I think, somewhat aging in the public because they have to. They don't have the benefit of having such carefully managed and curated appearances that they can always hide their flaws. Letizia is letting her hair go gray. Fabulous. She looks great. Either way, she is in phenomenal shape and she looks fantastic, and so she's letting her hair go a little bit gray. I think it's totally fine. Embrace it. She's in her 50s now. You also have Crown Princess Meghan Markle. She just turned 50 and she allowed her son to take some pictures of her son's makeup. You could say not looking her best. And I think bravo, that is real. That's authentic. And you see this in other royals too. Crown Princess Victoria doesn't really put on any airs. Very, very laid back. I think she looks absolutely fabulous and she's in great shape as well. We have Crown Princess Mary, Queen Maxima, Queen Matilda, all of them look absolutely fabulous. Oh, and Princess Caroline of Monaco. That woman, for her age, I believe she's in her 60s now. She is in her 60s now, probably mid to late 60s. She looks fabulous. That Kelly bone structure served her well, because I think a lot of it can be driven back to having Grace Kelly as a mother and having some fantastic bone structure. And you could tell she's taking care of herself, but her hair is great. I feel like when I look at her, I see a beautiful woman who is of her age range, maybe even looks a little bit younger, but she looks fabulous. But Harry and Meghan, again, they can't do that. So one of the instances where I think they were just excessively photoshopped was, of course, a Time magazine article. We have Meghan looking very much like the cover image in white, so very much drawing attention to herself. Harry behind her in background black, and with obviously photoshopped, she's photoshopped, he's photoshopped, and he just looks, they look plastic to a certain extent. Probably the worst offender in that whole photo shoot was them walking through the trees, and it was just so unnatural. I'm like, what set did you guys use? Because all of that looks so plastic. Yes, some of it was the photographer, but a lot of it was, I think, Photoshop, and trying to make everything, getting the contrast right and getting all these things right so they look their absolute perfect best. But unfortunately, when you go too far, you end up with this plasticky effect. And the weirdest offense of all this, and again, Harry and Meghan, they've done this, I don't know why, is photoshopping Archie's hair color. So if you look at the Christmas picture of the whole family from 2021, Harry probably has a little bit more hair on his head, whatever. You can tell it's obviously been photoshopped a bit. But what's weird is Archie's hair color, because it looks fire engine red like his dad's. But yet when you look at pictures of him that we've gotten from like Zoom calls and the Netflix show and just like people taking pictures of him, the kid's hair looks auburn, like more dark auburn, maybe even brown. It doesn't look fire engine red. Why are you photoshopping your kid's hair color? I wondered the same too when it came to their 2020 Christmas card, because I thought it was interesting that again, they did something that was a little less authentic. They went with this painted look and they made his hair look red. And I just thought, why aren't you showing us a picture of him? And you're instead of doing a paint of him, is it to just show that his hair is red when maybe it's not? Now, granted, kids' hair colors, they change a bit, and obviously red is a recessive gene. So if Harry and Meghan both have it, yes, their kids have a higher probability of their hair being red. But again, when you see other pictures of Archie, his hair looks very, very dark. It does not have that light red effect. There's one picture though where Meghan's with her kids and his hair looks maybe almost more light brown. And you can tell that there's a filter on the thing, but it's like, but why do that to begin with? And I think people who overly rely on Photoshop, overly rely on fake narratives about themselves, there's something at the very heart that's inauthentic, and somebody who's very, very insecure to the extent that they must fake things they don't really need to fake and they can't really hide in order to try to get just a little bit of that ego boost. And that's what I think Harry is doing here. Harry is apparently balding. No issue with that whatsoever. But why does he feel the need to Photoshop it? Why does he feel the need to fake it and show us a picture that we obviously all know isn't true and just will continue to be worse and worse as time goes on? This is not going to be a problem that gets any better for him. It's just going to get worse. So why not actually address it either with hair plugs or something else, rather than saying instead, well, I'm just going to try to Photoshop and hope my hair looks like that again. And you compare that to William and Catherine. Yes, they've had pictures taken. Yes, maybe a little tweaks here and there, but I never got the sense that they were really, really trying to fill out his hairline. And maybe that happened in other publications like perhaps People magazine, who took pictures of him from other things. Now, granted, just as a clarifying note here, the Palace, as far as I'm aware, has only truly fully worked with People magazine for an Earthshot Prize spread they did in 2021, I believe. That they actually worked with People magazine, gave them exclusive pictures and then maybe a quote or two. But as far as I know, the royals don't work very closely with People magazine. But we know Harry did. Harry did the interview. Harry, I'm sure, got some of the approvals and stuff. And perhaps one of the things he said was, can you flip up my hairline a bit? And they did. And he's continuing to use it despite it being very publicly obvious that that's not the case. And I think this is a huge problem for Harry and Meghan going forward. They have so many problems. Don't forget, these are people who are lost mega deals, are on the brink of perhaps losing another, don't have a lot of support for the Dusseldorf games, and things are not looking, I don't think, very, very bright for Harry and Meghan in a lot of ways. I think Hollywood is scrutinizing them very closely. We even had People magazine industry insiders admitting that they vastly overpaid for Harry and Meghan. And so Harry and Meghan are in this very, very precarious moment here where they really, really need to drum up interest in their brand. And what do? They don't show us authenticity. They show us fakery. And this is something that was pointed out as well about Meghan's podcast. Somebody said, and I can't remember which article, I think it was even the People magazine, is that, well, she lacked authenticity. She wouldn't give us enough of an insight into her life to make people connect to her and enjoy what she was presenting on her podcast. And I think, Harry, you could say it's the same way here. They can't be authentic. They can't be their real selves. And I think part of the problem is that if Harry and Meghan revealed to us their true intentions, then people definitely would not want to work with them. Because Harry and Meghan, I think, they're not interested in helping the public really, or helping soldiers, or doing anything other than helping pad their own bank accounts. I think very much that is especially Meghan's perspective, and Meghan's focus is padding her own bank account. Yes, I think Harry, to a certain extent, does have somewhat more of a charitable gene than she does. But I don't think she's really all that interested in the life they're supposedly trying to create, one that is authentic and charitable and all these sorts of things I just don't think fundamentally are true. And that is hugely damaging to what they're doing. So going forward, Harry and Meghan really have to focus on one thing, and that's being their real selves. I think to a certain extent, I could get more on board with Harry and Meghan if Meghan just admitted that, hey, I married Harry for the money. I married Harry for the fame. I'm still trying to desperately make it in Hollywood, and that's really all I care about. And I'd be like, okay, bravo, you are at least being true to actually what you want to do. But she can't. She tries to mask it in all this altruism, but none of it rings true. And that's why I think Meghan and Harry both suffer on the international stage now, is because when they were royal, when they had the padding of the palace, and when they weren't getting paid for every charitable endeavor they did, you could say they had a bit more authenticity about it. But now everything has to be managed, everything has to be curated, everything has to be carefully crafted to make Harry and Meghan look the best that they possibly can. And unfortunately, I don't think that's really ringing true for people anymore. And that's something Harry and Meghan really have to figure out and deal with, because I don't think they're able to. I don't think they've realized that even though, yes, it may seem silly to us, Joe Public, to change Harry's hair. And yes, we can say, oh, well, it's just a vanity thing. But at the heart of it, it's really lying. You are lying to the public, telling us that this guy has more hair than he does. And I think that's something Harry and Meghan have to address going forwards. And it'll be interesting to see if they can or they can't, because this is a time where Harry and Meghan are make it or break it. They're either going to succeed in Hollywood or utterly and completely fail. And although all of Hollywood, again, photoshopping, face tuning, all of that, plastic surgery up the wazoo, all of that is very, very common, Harry and Meghan can maybe differentiate themselves by being more authentic and not going down the Hollywood track. But Meghan is too obsessed with Hollywood. She's too obsessed with chasing the trends, chasing the fame, chasing the fortune, rather than trying to actually build a brand based on their actual skill set and not trying to fake it and come into something else. So guys, let me know what you think about this video, and let me know what you think of Harry photoshopping in his receding hairline. I just don't get it. We can see you in person, Harry. You're not really fooling anybody. What is the purpose behind it? Let me know in the comments below, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Bye.